home or with your group of friends in a private place, nobody's going to disturb you. Because, again, we're on the path to legalization. I think we've now realized it's not the 1950s anymore. Reefer madness was never really right. And of all the drugs that are out there, this is one of the least harmful. We have people in this country who are completely killing themselves because of their addiction to a legal medication, right? Opioids, right? Wouldn't you have rather that we had legal marijuana instead of legal opioids as a painkiller for the last 20 years? We'd have a lot more brothers and sisters sitting around with us if that had been true. And quite honestly, in this county and in this country, white people used to think that drug issues and addiction issues were a moral failing. But as soon as white people started abusing legal medical drugs, right, now it's a public health crisis. So we've got to stop. Let's be honest, right? So now we got to be smart about this. We got to be smart about drugs. There are drugs that are killing people in our communities. You know about that firsthand. I'm going to give him the microphone in a minute because he can tell you about this. But there are other drugs that people use just like they've been drinking alcohol for years, another legal drug, okay? So we've got to get smarter about the drug problem. We've got to stop treating it like a war on drugs, which has really been a war on the poor community, quite honestly, in this country. And we've got to be smart on crime. And I think Sadiq knows all about this and can tell you a little more from his personal background, both as a law enforcement officer and particularly a law enforcement officer who's been working in the drug area.
So, thank you guys. I can definitely talk about when it comes to the drug problem in Delaware County. Before that, I'll definitely talk about community policing. When I became a police officer in Yaden, I became a police officer because my community didn't have a voice. That's what it felt like. And we wasn't being represented. We didn't have a seat at the table. So when I became a cop, it was amazing. Because now, when I knock on somebody's door, from your last name, if your last name is Kaba, like C-A-B-A, I already know you're from either Senegal, Liberia, or Guinea, and you already know what tribe you come from. So I've been in a situation, you know, police officers, we have discretion. You know, when I pull somebody over for just blowing a stop sign, Africans, we're really scared of police or immigrants. So, you know, we really are. So I'll tell you guys a story. I'll pull this guy over. He just ran a stop sign. He didn't stop completely. When I pull him over, he starts shaking and crying. I'm like, you know, we treat people with like respect. I said, Uncle, I saw his name. I'm like, why are you crying? He's like, man, don't take me to jail and everything. I'm like, Uncle, you know. Then I said, my name is Sadiq Kamara. He said, they hire you? First of all, when I shave my beard, I look like I'm 15. So when I get out of the police car, I look like I'm 15 years old. When I'm in my military uniform, I look like I'm young as hell. Excuse my language. But they're like, they hire a Kamara? I'm like, yeah. You from Africa? I said, yes, Uncle, I'm from Guinea. He's like, wow. He was shook. It was amazing. And after then, he started trusting the police. Whenever I see him, I say, hello, Uncle. So that's why it's important to have people, you know, like us, all minorities as us. When they come to the youth, I stop my police car and play basketball with the kids. And when I'm done playing and when I'm done working, I'll go outside again and play ball with the kids. Like, wait, weren't you just in the police car? I'm like, yeah, but we still got a game to finish. So these are really important to our community. And when I was a police officer as well, I've been in a situation this guy, it was Christmas time, the holiday. You know, his registration expired, everything. Pull him over because his tenant window is dark as heck. You know, so I pull him over. I'm like, hey, brother, what's going on? He start crying again. I'm like, why am I getting lucky with everybody crying now? And I asked him, I'm like, what's going on? He was like, my nephew just passed away. I was like the funeral book and everything. He's like, I don't have any money and I don't know what to do. It's the holiday season. So what I decided to do is, I'm all right, I can't let you drive. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you some money. You can take the trolley because he was going to Southwest on Church Lane. You can take the bus and you can park your car. You can have somebody come pick up your car. These are what we need to train our police officers and kind of understand. You don't always have to just slam everybody. And when it comes to the drugs, I work in the drugs force some time too as well. And I see that in Philadelphia, it's a mess. It's really, really horrible. So my question for Jack already kind of answered what when it comes to like the opioid and everything and medication. I wanted to also ask you, Monica, and other individuals here, what's your opinion? Because 69th Street here, they come here a lot. And Upper Darby, like, they're coming here. And I want to know how we're going to fight that. It's really important because right now, Kensington, like, I don't know if you guys ever been there or drive through there. It's really, really bad. And I'm out there every single day knocking on doors trying to help somebody out. So I don't want that in my neighborhood in Lansdowne or Upper Darby in Delaware County. I'm trying to avoid that. So I wanted to ask you guys, what you guys thought about, the opioid crisis and how we're going to try to prevent that in Delaware County. Thank you, guys.
I think working with trying to combat the opioid crisis in our county is, it's something that if we had a health department in our county would be a real asset to help combat that, because what a health department does is that it helps to coordinate the services all around the county so we can make sure we're targeting our attacks, we are helping the areas that really need it the most, and then of course we need to work with our DA and partner with other organizations around the county to try and make sure that we're preventing more from coming in and that we're helping all the individuals that are here that are dealing with this, whether it's families, individuals who are actually in recovery, helping them all to make sure that we are fixing the problem.
Yeah, and Monica's exactly right. It's a public health crisis in part. It's also a law enforcement crisis. We need a public health partner to take the lead. Right now we have a heroin task force in Delaware County. It's run by the district attorney. It's a PR exercise. They've never actually arrested anybody. They don't conduct any operations, right? It's just a method for her to go around the county and stand before life-size pictures of herself and tell people that she's the one trying to keep the opioid crisis under control. It's not under control. What's going... It's right, and it's
in Delco, it's in Upper Darby, and it's coming. You guys don't know this, but I know this.
And you know it's a next generation, right? It's the synthetic drugs that are coming now too, that are much more deadly in some ways than even the opioid and heroin we've dealt with. So we've seen a dip in deaths, but we're about to go back up unless we really attack the problem. And one of the things we talked earlier about marijuana, one of the things law enforcement needs to do is make sure that we're going after the real drug dealers and the big time guys and the guys who are moving and making a lot of money. They did a study one time in Baltimore of a drug organization, and they found that it was like the rest of the capitalist part of the United States. The guys at the very top who took no risks, got on the street selling the drugs, who were getting shot at, they were making less than minimum wage, okay? So what we've got to do is we've got to dismantle drug organizations. We've got to go after the big drug dealers who are dealing the kind of poison that are killing people in our communities. But the lesser the resources, in part because we're going to have a health department to partner with, but also because, again, I don't mean to sound like a broken record, but if we can just deprivatize our prison and reinvest some of those savings. When I was a federal prosecutor, George Bush was a president of the United States. And everybody thought he was a hardcore conservative. Right now, he looks pretty good compared to the Republican we've got now. Yeah. But he actually was a criminal justice reformer because he did two things. He started the reentry programs in the United States because we realized there was about 600,000 people who are getting out of prison every year from very long sentences. Very few people go to jail for the rest of their lives. They're all going to get out. And if we've done nothing but warehouse them for long periods of time, we got to give them a chance to become productive citizens. The second thing he did, though, was called the Justice Reinvestment Initiative. And what that is it's been going on now for about 14 years, is we're trying to partner with the states and local municipalities to make sure that we're ending the era of mass incarceration. We're not just locking people up for the longest possible sentence anymore. We're giving them an appropriate sentence when they need to go to jail. But we're reinvesting those savings that we're getting from not having to constantly build new prisons and reinvesting them into evidence-based programs to treat the addiction and the mental health issues. Judge Dozier, who just left the criminal division in our common pleas court that these guys are going to be moving into, said recently at a public forum that 70% of his criminal docket were people who had addiction or mental health issues or both. And he thought that number was actually rising. Okay? So the people we're arresting have these underlying issues that if we're not actually giving them an opportunity to heal, then we're not doing justice to them. And to do that, we need programs and we need funds. And Monica, I think, has really appropriately talked about how we can help with the county health department. But I also think that we've got a couple of judges here I want to hear from, or I'm sorry, judges to be, who I think are going to tell you about some of the kind of ideas they have to make sure, because they're the ones who are going to be able to administer these programs from the bench.
I want to touch on one thing before I hand it to Nusrat. Long sentences imposed for relatively minor issues. It's very easy for someone to say, well, you know, as a judge, my hands are tied by the laws that the legislature has put together. The fact is, the laws that the legislatures have enacted, that we do have to, often provide for the judge to look at many different factors. Another way to put that is the judge has discretion to look at the whole situation. So while there may be a mandatory minimum sentence for a particular crime, that's all it is, a minimum sentence. And what you are getting at, I think, is that it seems like an inordinate number of sentences are on the other end